Hello, my name is Hamid with We Buy Any Cards. Welcome to our second collection purchase video. Today I want to show you a collection that we bought today. Today is a Monday. Last Saturday, a gentleman got in touch with us and sent us a list of cards that he wanted to sell. He was looking for a fairly quick sale, and after we gave him a quick price estimate, he was able to get the cards shipped out same day on Saturday. Now, this morning they arrived, and after auditing the collection, we were able to acquire it for a figure in the region of £11,000. And the gentleman was very happy, and we were happy that we were able to offer him a pretty quick turnaround service for this one. And I want to show you what we got, because it's not very often that we get a collection where you fit that sort of value into one small deck box. So let's have a look what's inside. Now, to start off with, we have 2 copies of Foil Jace the Mind Sculptor. This is a card that used to be the most expensive modern Magic card for many years. In fact, nothing really could challenge this in terms of price. I think they were probably touching well over £500 at one point for a decent condition copy. You can see that these are not perfect. They do have some surface wear. We'd probably be grading them somewhere between X and good. But definitely one of the more iconic throwbacks, and but a card that has been sort of replaced in terms of its utility in Magic. And also there are just so many versions of Jace, including the most recent, I think, full art foil from Double Masters, which I think has the same art but is completely full art. So the price of this card has definitely been under attack in recent years, and it's definitely dropped down from its highs, but still very iconic. And in fact, we've never had one in stock before, so it's really fun for us to have this. Next, we have 4 copies of Lotus Petal from Kaladesh Masterpieces. I think these are just absolutely gorgeous. And from the 3 original Masterpiece series, the Battle for Zendikar, the Invocations, and the Kaladesh, I think these are the prettiest by far. And they are the only ones that have really held their own and continue to increase in value. I think these are fetching somewhere in the region of about £250 now. And that's probably, I would guess that they've at least doubled since they were released 4 or 5 years ago. So definitely, if you've held on to one of these, you've done really very well. All of these 4 copies are in absolutely pristine condition, and we're very happy to be able to add them to our portfolio and make them available to our customers. Here we have 4 copies of Leyline of the Void from its original printing. Now, this is a card that was recently reprinted with the old border frame in Times Barrel Remastered, so the price of this one has come down a little bit. I guess the more copies, the more attractive copies of a given card that are available on the market, the price of any given copy is gonna take a hit when that happens. So, but these still fetch probably in the region of, I would guess, about £70 to £80 for a copy in decent condition. Now, these aren't perfect. They're generally around sort of X with some surface wear, as you can see. But I mean, this is a multi-format staple. You see this played in Legacy and Modern, and I'm not sure if it's used much in Pioneer, but this is the sort of thing that can really wreck the graveyard-based decks when it's brought in out of the sideboard. And whenever graveyard-based decks come to the fore, we see these show up in more sideboards. Now, the next card we have is 4 copies of EMA Foil Force of Will. This is a very interesting card, because for the longest time there was no foil copy of Force of Will. Then we had the Judge Reward promo, and then we had this card. But since then we've had the Double Masters and more on the horizon. So there are now so many choices. So something like this, which does have incredible Therese Nielsen art, may still not command the sort of value in the future that it has in the past, just because people, both collectors and people who are looking to play with these, have so many choices when it comes to which art and what kind of style of Forcible they want to go for. There's the Invocation as well. It's not one of my personal favorites, but quite a few choices from that one. Here's a card that I don't think has ever been reprinted, at least not in foil. This is Sanctum Prelate. And these not Commander, but Conspiracy 2 foils, they still are incredibly expensive. Just I don't necessarily think it's due to how much play the card sees, because it's only used in a handful of decks in Legacy and maybe a little bit in Commander, but there's just no choice. If you want a foil premium version of this card, this is the only card you can get. And I could see if it ever does see a reprint in the future, this card probably will drop in price a little bit, but still, like, look at the foiling on these are absolutely gorgeous, and this card is in pretty much pristine condition. Here we have a familiar story, a modern staple that has dropped in price because of reprints. Also, for the longest time, there was only two choices if you wanted a premium Liliana of the Veil. You had the original Innistrad, which was incredibly expensive, and then I believe it was in 2015, the regional PTQ promo came out. Here we have 4 copies of this card, and I think they were probably touching somewhere around £200 at their peak, but I've definitely fallen off, probably just below the £100 mark, I would say, at this point. Still a very beautiful card, but whether you would want something like this or the full art foil from Ultimate Masters, that choice is what's been really attacking this price, and it's so iconic though, and it's just lovely to have 4 of these copies in stock. Now here we have 4 copies of Player Rewards Wasteland. I think this is the only variant of Wasteland that has the original art in foil. It has the old border as well, which is absolutely lovely to see. These old frames have been sort of seeing a bit of a resurgence because of Time Spiral Remastered. We have 4 copies of this card in the collection, and they are roughly X condition on average. There might be 1 or 2 that are a little bit worse, but I mean, this one's just lovely actually. And you do have a lot of choice when it comes to Wasteland. You have expeditions, you have at least 2 Judge Reward promos. So there's no shortage of versions to choose from. But this card is just lovely. I think for my personal use, this is my go-to version of Wasteland. Now, the next part of the collection is a little bit unusual because we have a lot of Fetchlands from Battle for Zendikar expeditions. Normally when we get these, we'll get 1 of each, or we'll get maybe 4 of one because somebody was using them for a deck. But the numbers on here add up to something quite different. For example, we have Polluted Delta. We have 5 copies of Polluted Delta, and we have, let's see, 7 copies of Misty Rainforest, and then we have 6 copies of Scalding Tarn, and then a few more of each of the others. I don't think any of them amount to a playset. Now, I really personally love these cards. I've collected them for myself in my own private collection for many years, and I've enjoyed playing with them and owning them. I bought them when they first came out, and I haven't let go of them since. But I don't really know what would bring a person to collect so many of them. It's obviously a very risky thing to hold on to, as we've seen their price drop off a little bit, not as much maybe as expected, but with the reprint in the most recent Zendikar set of some of these, and the expected reprint coming in in Modern Horizons 2 this summer, then the price on these is being attacked quite hard. Now, you could pick up a Scalding Tarn for probably around 100 to 120 pounds when these came out. I want to say 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They did rise at some point to well over 200. I think that's dropped off a little bit, probably down to about 150 to 170. And I think these blue Fetchlands are all around the sort of same or similar price point. You should be able to pick one up for about 150 pounds, but I still think they are a bit of a risky hold at this point. We've seen that they can drop, and because for a while it was all kind of upside, or at least they stayed flat for a while, and then they went up a couple of times. This one unfortunately has a bit of a ding there. But these extremely like high value premium versions of modern and legacy playables, they do tend to be risky to hold on to. But I mean, if you just like the art, I just like the art. And my favorite actually is Misty Rainforest. I think this is one of the nicest arts period in Magic. And the way the foiling is done here, it's not so. It's not always the case that this from the vault foiling sort of complements a card. It can be a bit too much. Like you see here, like you see that in the light, it just shines a bit too much. So this one has a little bit of a nick there. I don't think I've noticed that before, but this one just it just looks really lovely. I think the little birds and the little tree there, and it just it works for me personally. Something like the Scalding Tarn and the Polluted Delta, they are nice, but it's a lot going on in that art, and I just like the sort of simplicity of the Misty Rainforest. And I've played with these tournaments myself. And actually, one upside of playing with Expedition lands is that your opponent can't always quite tell from the other side of the table which land they are. So if that counts as a competitive advantage, then I'll take it. Now we do have a few more here. Marsh Flats. I do like the art on this one a little better as well, because I personally tend to like the sort of art where there's not too much going on, sort of simpler arts. But you can see the Bloodstone does have a lot of stuff going on, and at least from my view, that's not quite as attractive. You can see on this card, this is a miscut card. So this kind of damage when you get it on Battle for Zendikar Expeditions is not something that's caused by playware. It's actually many of them came like that out of the packs, and I think Wizards did at the time offer some sort of replacement program if you got one that was damaged out of the pack. But it's really unfortunate because it does damage the value. We can't grade this card as near mint. It'd have to be graded as good or excellent, and generally if you're selling something like this, you've got to tell the buyer about the damage and send them a picture of it. So it does create a little bit more work to sell something like this. But this is pretty nice. Wooded Foothills. Here's another one that has the miscut border, and generally you see it on the top and the front right border here. It's very rare to see it on the bottoms a little bit here. I don't think I've ever seen it on the left border. And Windsoaked Heath. I think I did play with this in Standard when it was legal. And then we have 3 Bloodstained Mires as well. That's just lovely. Now we get to the sort of older part of the collection. All the cards you've seen so far up to this point have been, maybe apart from the Wasteland, have been newer cards. The gentleman sent us 4 Lion's Eye Diamonds, all in pretty good condition, ranging on sort of between excellent and good. This one probably we'd err on the side of good with this sort of border wear. Lion's Eye Diamond is obviously a card that has had many price spikes, And I think at this point, they're probably you're not going to find one for less than £400 at this stage. This one's got a little bit more wear. And cards in this sort of condition, probably starting at around £450 to £500. Obviously, this is a reserved list card, so we don't expect the value to ever retrace too much. Now, there has been it is now March 2021, and about 2 months ago, there was a really big price spike on these. Third or fourth price spike of Lion's Eye Diamond that I can remember. I think I bought my first one 7 or 8 years ago for about £30, maybe 20 or £30, but they do command a much higher premium than that now, and I don't see necessarily a reason why they would go down. They are a multi-format stable, they are Legacy, Commander, they're a combo piece. It's just a very desirable card. Now, the final part of the collection is 20 revised dual lands. Again, the numbers are a little unusual from what we normally see. Generally, we'd see a maximum of 4 for each card. Sometimes between 1 and 2. Occasionally, we'd get, for the full 40, but that's pretty rare. But here we have, for example, Underground Sea. We have 6 copies of Underground Sea. Which is highly unusual. Maybe the gentleman, he had a lot of commander decks, or he liked blue back more than anything, who knows, but quite a lot of Underground Seas here. And generally the condition isn't too bad. Probably around good, this one. And 2 of them are signed. And we have no reason to question the authenticity of these signatures. Rob Alexander signatures are incredibly common. There probably might be more signed copies out there than unsigned, but and they all pretty much look exactly the same. And yeah, it's not a bad card. These are the sort of cards that you definitely want to buy to put in a deck. They're not high enough value to, or high enough condition to, that you would consider grading something like this. But generally what you see with revised duels is a pretty clean front, because the white doesn't get as easily damaged as the black on the back. And if there is dirt, you can generally take some cotton wool, maybe slightly damp cotton wool, and just sort of rub it off without causing any damage to the card. So a perfect playing copy is, this nice clean front with good centering. It's got strong eye appeal. And then you have the damage on the back, because generally if people were playing with these back 20 years ago and they wouldn't be using sleeves, most of the damage would fall on the back, and as I said, the white wouldn't show as much damage. So this is exactly the kind of card you might want to put in a deck. Next we have Savannah. Two copies, in fact. Let's start with this one. This is not, I think, what we call a playing copy. This is almost borders on sort of gradable condition. It's almost perfect. I'm just going to bring it closer to the camera here. Hopefully get a good zoom, good focus on it. And if you look at that surface, that's very clean. And the same for the front. Might be a little mark there in the middle, but we might be able to clean that off. Yeah, this is a beautiful card. It's a little left to right off center, but apart from that, just a lovely card. And if this was graded, it probably would have a good chance at a 9, I would think. And the other card is not quite as nice. So clearly in the past, somebody bent this corner, and you can't really see it as well from the front. Just a little bit of a mark there. And maybe they have ironed it or pressed it down, because you can't really feel it with your fingers or anything like that. But definitely a damaged card. But if you need one for a deck, it's going to do the job. Here's a Tundra. Again, this is sort of what we can consider or generally describe as a playing copy. Clean front, not too bad on the centering. and Tiger. And this one is extremely clean. Very, very pretty card. Another sort of candidate for grading if you wanted to have the card graded. If you bought something of this quality, I would not advise putting it in a deck. I would keep it somewhere where it wouldn't be at any risk of sustaining any damage. Here we have a Badlands. Some damage on the front, actually. You might be able to clean some of that off, but and another one. And a little bit of a scratch there, but apart from that, a very clean card. And I believe there are 4 copies of Bayou. Sort of mixed condition, but generally around LP to good. I think this one is probably the nicest I can show you. Yeah, that's a very pretty Bayou. 2 drops. Some wear on the back, unfortunately. And when we see this sort of wear generally stems from people riffle shuffling their cards. It's very unfortunate because we often see cards that have pretty clean backs generally, but then just have this ugly mark here because people are sort of shuffling. I wouldn't do it to this card, but shuffling in such a way that it damages the cards further. And if you do that over and over again, you play many tournaments, you're going to leave this sort of mark over time. And sometimes this mark can extend all the way down here where the sort of structural integrity of the cardboard, of the card stock is compromised and the card gets kind of wobbly. It's not very nice. Now the last card cards are 2 Volcanic Islands, and something did arouse our suspicion here because when we looked at the back of this one, you can see it's got very strong border wear all around. And when we see this kind of strong border wear, we expect, the card to be worn all over the same way. But it's actually got a fairly clean front. And now, if you've seen this before, if this is something you do every day, this is pretty obvious, but this is not an authentic Magic card. And the other one is, so I can just hold them up here. I might try to do a little zoom with the camera to help you see the difference there. And I'll do it as an overlay. You can see the colors are all wrong, first of all. We did do a green dot test on this. I'm not sure how far the zoom is going to go here. No, definitely not far enough. No, that's not going to work. But the card failed the green dot test. It also is far too light. It is about 1.62 grams, whereas we would expect a Magic card from this era to be around 1.175 on average, maybe 177. The blacks also, we loop tested the blacks, and the blacks are all intermingled with the other colors, which is not what we would want to see. The glossiness of the surface is all wrong. So unfortunately, we were not able to pay the gentleman any money for this card. It's just going to go in our bin of fake cards, and we'll keep it for reference. But it's always interesting to see the quality of fakes. I don't expect this necessarily to be a very old fake. It actually is a reasonably good quality as far as fakes go. And to the untrained eye, if you look at it like that, it doesn't look all that different from the real thing. If I shuffled them, if I had a few more maybe, and if I shuffled them and you watch them from the other side of the table, you might be fooled, something like this, it looks pretty authentic. But if you take a closer look, and if you know what you're looking at, then you'll see pretty quickly that this was not an authentic Magic card. But it's I'm glad to be able to show it to you here. But yeah, that was the collection. That was a pretty quick deal. Generally, such sizable deals take a little bit longer to negotiate and work out the details and authenticate. And the auditing for this one, only took less than an hour because there's so few cards. But thank you for watching. If you have a Magic collection that you would like to sell, you can reach us or get in touch on www.webuyanycard.co.uk. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and we will be releasing more in the coming days and weeks. Thank you very much.